A Roblox game is unironically beating Dead by Daylight right now in terms of concurrent players. Yep, you heard me right. A game made on the funny little kids game engine is currently beating a AAA game, and it's not just due to Roblox being more openly accessible either. This game's actually pretty damn good.
Can we get much higher?
Say hello to Forsaken, a game made and uploaded to Roblox somewhat recently. Forsaken is, on the surface, a lot like Dead by Daylight. It's an asymmetrical horror game where there's a killer and multiple survivors. The killer has to kill everybody, and the survivors need to not do that. The survivors have to avoid the killer, and they can hasten their escape by doing the generators around the map. Now, I know what you might be thinking, oh, this just sounds like a shitty DVD ripoff on Roblox, but I promise you, this game unironically does it better than Dead by Daylight in some regards, and I'm being completely deadass when I say that. To sort of explain why I think this, let's compare the two games a little bit, starting off with the character rosters. In Dead by Daylight, you have 38 killers and 45 survivors to choose from at the time of me making my script. In comparison, Forsaken has just 4 killers and 10 survivors. Now, this might sound like an obvious win for Dead by Daylight, but stop for a second and think about this. Imagine you're a new player to the genre, right? Imagine loading up Dead by Daylight and seeing that there are 83 characters that you'll eventually have to grow accustomed to if you want to learn the entire game. Not to mention the hundreds and hundreds of perks that are in Dead by Daylight, all of which have their own unique uses. That seems like it'd be an awful lot to learn for a new player. Hell, I've played Dead by Daylight for hundreds of hours myself, and even I don't know what the fuck half the perks do. Meanwhile, with Forsaken, you don't gotta worry about that. The roster of 14 characters are all fairly straightforward and easy to understand with no perk system to worry about. You simply choose your character, and that's it. This brings me to another point of contention where I feel like Forsaken beats out Dead by Daylight. Forsaken has no microtransactions. Zero. Every character and their cosmetics is free, as long as you get enough in-game currency, of which the game is fairly generous with. Now compare that to the hellspawn that is Dead by Daylight. You wanna know how many of the 85 characters you get for free in that game? 14. Out of 85. Meaning that if you wanna have every character in the game, then you'd better be willing to spend some money, and quite a damn bit too. While you are technically able to get perks for free using blood points, good fucking luck getting those when the free to purchase perks are randomized like every week or so when there's literally hundreds of them. Now tell me, if you were somebody who wanted to get into the asymmetrical horror genre, would you rather drop over $300 for a full game, or would you rather download something that takes up less than a gigabyte where you also get everything for free without risking the loss of gameplay quality? I don't know about you, but to me that's a pretty easy choice. Now, all of this is to go without saying that Behavior Interactive, the creators of Dead by Daylight, are pretty obviously just doing all of these crossovers at the expense of the game just so they can gouge their player base for money. I mean, come on, they've got just about every popular killer character you can imagine in the game. Michael Myers, Ghostface, fucking William Afton, and many more. If you're a fan of one of these characters, then obviously you'd want to buy the game and the DLC in order to play as them. Until you actually play the game and see how toxic the fan base is. Like, it's so bad to the point where I feel like the DVD community is at least partially responsible for Forsaken overtaking DBD in terms of player count. I genuinely wouldn't feel safe approaching the DBD community even with a fucking hazmat suit on. That's how toxic it is. Meanwhile, compare this to Forsaken. Forsaken's community, while not overly amazing in of itself, is still miles better than Dead by Daylight's. At least in Forsaken, I can have a conversation with somebody in the chat without needing to worry about it immediately becoming a cesspool of insults and arguing. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm absolutely sure that there's some hidden gems in the DVD community, but the overall vibe that the DVD community gives me is really not a good one. And I feel like I know a big reason as to why the game's community is the way it is. Ranked. I think the ranking system is one of the main reasons. Now, I know that DVD removed its rank system a while back, but let me explain. Let me use a completely different game as an example for what I'm about to say. Let's say CS2. CS2 has two different main modes, casual and competitive. In casual matches, the overall skill level isn't exactly incredible. Sure, you'll get a good player every now and then, but overall, if you're a new player, then you don't have much to fear here. Nobody else is really that good, and even if they are, you can just leave the lobby and find a new lobby to play in. Now, if you feel like testing your skill, you can play competitive. Here you have your rank on the line, and in order to win, you'd best play to the best of your abilities, as there's no leaving mid-match here, as doing so can give you some pretty bad penalties. Now let's look back at Dead by Daylight. In DBD, there's only one main choice, and that's to queue into a game. There's no choice between ranked or unranked here, you're just thrown into a game, and once you're in game, there's no backing out, as you'll get penalized for doing so, without being given an option to reconnect, by the way. Now, if you don't see the immediate problem with this, then let me explain. Dead by Daylight is known for its toxicity and its difficulty for new players. Imagine being a brand new player loading up a game of Dead by Daylight just to be curb stomped and to be subsequently called a useless piece of shit by your teammates. That would be pretty demotivating, and you can't just leave either, as you won't be able to play a new match. Now sure, DBD does use a MMR system for its matchmaking, but this doesn't do much to help new players when they win a few easy matches just to be put in a lobby where too much is expected out of them by their team. Because of this, you often can't play DBD for fun unless you have a group of friends to fuck around with. Instead, you need to play to win. There's no room for error unless you want to be shit-talked, and you can't simply back out thanks to the penalty for doing so. This can create a negative feedback loop very easily that tends to drag a lot of the newer would-be players away from the game. Hell, even the more experienced players like myself have ended up deleting the game and never playing it again solely because of just how bad the community is. And it's a shame too, because Dead by Daylight has a lot of potential that's just being completely ruined by behaviors and action to solve some of these issues. Anyways, I apologize for my little rant there, but let me now explain how Forsaken handles all of what I've just said. Okay, so first off, there's no ranking system or skill-based matchmaking. This may sound like a recipe for disaster for new players, and it would be if it wasn't for a couple of things. First off, you can view the accounts of other players and see precisely how many wins they have, how much playtime they have, and how much in-game currency they have. This means that you can very easily find out the general skill level of the lobby, and if you don't like the lobby at first glance, then that's fine. You can just leave and find a new one, and it doesn't even take 10 seconds to do so. And even if you do end up in a match where you feel like you aren't quite on the same skill level as everybody else, then that's no problem, as you can just straight up leave the game with no consequences. Now, this still isn't really a nice thing to do to your team, as you're taking away somebody who could have proved to be very helpful to the team, but at least you don't feel shackled to the match in the same way as in Dead by Daylight, as you don't need to worry about losing some rank or getting a matchmaking penalty. This immediately makes Forsaken a lot more friendly to new players in my opinion, as you can just leave mid-match if things get a bit too much for you without any fear of reprisals. This also serves as a very easy way to avoid toxicity in-game, as you can just leave the lobby if some dude's being an asshole. But that's enough talking about that. Let's talk about the actual meat and potatoes of Forsaken, that being the gameplay. The gameplay loop of Forsaken goes as follows. The game starts off with an animation showing who the killer of the round will be. After this, the round will start, with the survivors being numbered anything from 1 all the way up to like 6 or potentially more. The survivors are listed in the bottom left for both the killer and the survivors, effectively meaning that everybody in the round knows precisely what to expect skill-wise from everybody else. The goal of the survivors is quite simple. Survive until the timer hits 0. This timer can be sped up by doing generators, although you'd best be careful as dying will add extra time to the clock. The goal for the killer is also quite simple. You need to kill everybody before the timer hits 0. If you're successful in this, then a last man standing sequence will begin when there's only one survivor left. When a last man standing sequence begins, the timer is set to 1 minute and 30 seconds, and both the killer and the last survivor will briefly see each other's aura.
And she just couldn't handle it.
This serves as a fun little way to give the last survivor a shot at winning while also giving the killer an opportunity to wipe the server. Hell, there's even unique parts of the OST that play only during this sequence, with some of the songs only playing if the killer and last survivor are a certain pair of characters, which is really fucking cool by the way. Speaking of the OST, Forsaken boasts a surprisingly good OST for a Roblox game, featuring dozens and dozens of special, unique, and different songs, ranging from the calm piano of the lobby, to map ambience, to the high-intensity chase themes. Not to say that Dead by Daylight has a bad OST, mind you, but like, come on, you gotta admit that this goes a bit harder than this. I guess the main reason why I'm saying all this is to sort of show you that just because the game is on Roblox doesn't immediately mean that it's bad or not worth your time. Honestly, I was really hesitant to get into Forsaken due to it being a game on Roblox, but I was genuinely surprised at the level of quality that the game has when I finally decided to give it a try. And I feel like the quality of this game paired with the accessibility of Roblox along with the downfalls of Dead by Daylight have all compounded in a way that made Forsaken explode with popularity, eventually overtaking Dead by Daylight. In conclusion, if you're looking for a good DVD-esque game to play, try Forsaken. It's a surprisingly solid game that, in my opinion, is honestly more fun than Dead by Daylight. And to end off this video, if you still prefer Dead by Daylight, then that's completely fine. Unfortunately, however, you have an incorrect opinion.